You know, if there's another gift that keeps on giving that is not Tyler Carpenter, it is definitely the founder of Antarctic Press, our good friend, Mr. Ben Dunn. Last night, we did a live stream where we talked about bringing back the quote unquote comic book spinner rack. And could that be a benefit to bring back comic books to a younger generation? Tyler Carpenter of Drone Talk called the spinner rack basically archaic. Not in those exact words, but somewhat to that effect, that, it was going back in time and not moving forward in time. Ben Dunn, of course, last night on the live stream had, a very interesting counterpoints to that. He said, what if there was a rack full of comics in every 7-Eleven? You know, it'd be wild, wouldn't it? Right? Well, let's see what he says. In defense of the comic spinner rack. Last night, I was on the Nyobi show. That's me. And we discussed the returning of the comic book spinner rack into retail outlets. There are those who think it will not help the comic book industry, but I disagree. Had the big two not abandoned the newsstand model, I would argue that they might still be healthy. And here are some arguments that the spinner rack needs to return. So we got at least 3 points here. We're going to go over them. Point number 1. It takes up little retail space and can generate income relative to it. A common spinner rack takes up little more than maybe 1 square foot of space and can hold up to 250 comics. That's a lot of comics. Almost like a lawn box. If each comic was between $2 to $4, that would total a retail of anywhere from 450 to 1,000 American dollars. Assuming a sale through the value of 30 to 50% could generate between $315 on the low end and $500 on the high end. Let's assume that the spinner rack was located in every 7-Eleven location. That would be 13,000 spinner racks generating a monthly sale of, looks like $400,000 on the low and $6,500 on the high. Number 2, visibility and impulse buys are key to success. If the general public were to see a comic spinner rack, there's a very good chance that many people go over and at least check it out. If there's a good product mix at a low price point, there's a good chance to at least pick up a comic and look through it. Children and teens, I believe, would be attracted to it as an impulse, given that it's a place, a high traffic area like front or near a checkout. You gotta put that as one word, I think. It's a high likelihood that it would catch most people's eyes if there was a good product mix. Yeah, I mean, you can't really put, too much risque stuff on a spinner rack, but if it's definitely aimed towards a younger audience, I agree. It creates long-term customers and fans. If the product mix is replaced every month, it creates a need to return back to the spinner rack to see what is new. Also creates the habit of being a regular buyer for the latest comics. Parents may buy something that kids can hold and become the future readers and collectors. Look, I understand that there are major logistics that need to be overcome, and the chances of this are not, and the likelihood of this will not happen, but I think the idea cannot be dismissed out of hand. I think the only argument really that people are sort of bringing up, and wow, I'm surprised to see a Witchblade there, to be honest with you, is that, we're in the digital age now, right? And that people are shifting to digital content and not physical content, which is what, this represents. Look at the old A-Team up there. I mean, clearly this is just like back issue sort of spinner racks here in the picture. Tex Clayton in the comment says, the non-returnable thing is what killed it here, which is a diamond policy. I got comics into several new agents by taking the risk myself. I figured I'd just take back the unsold stock and sell it in my comic shop as I normally would. No harm done. But they canceled one by one since Diamond consistently screwed up my orders, seemingly for their own amusement, and I couldn't guarantee a regular supply. Surely in the US you can approach some magazine distributors to send your comics out? Question mark. In Australia it was always done through Gordon and Gosh. In fact, they used to do Ninja High School. They didn't get along with Diamond either, so we just get Australian European comics on stands. Which only with a few insanely overpriced American comics. Yeah, if you're buying a comic in Australia, it's like $8 fucking. No word of a lie. It's like $8, man. Actually, didn't someone get vending machines into Walmart a few years ago? They had a roster superhero, I think. Totally blanking to their name. Haven't seen any vending machines, but I still sometimes see the cardboard displays of those comics you're talking about. Yeah, they were never in vending machines. If you're talking about like, the Blake Norcott stuff, and things of that nature, Red Rooster, they were sold in Walmart, and you would find them in like the tire alley. You know what I mean? Like, Ken Albury. This is my little display at the local general store. I sold 3 copies yesterday when I went in to restock it, as 2 customers overheard my conversation with the first. I doubt any of these people have ever stepped foot in a comic book store. It's true. I agree with you, Ben. I miss the days of the spinner rack. Comics need to be in places people actually go to. No one's going to try comics if they have personally gone to a comic book store to get them. William, the newsstand marketplace is sold on a fully returnable basis. Over the last 20 years or so, sales were 15 to 20%, or for every 10 copies out on sale, 7.5 to 8 didn't sell. While it's great exposure and a wonderful jumping in point for new readers, it's financially a money pit. Also, comic books have the lowest cover price of just about every other periodical, so the same effort by the newsstand distributor is far more profitable to place magazines with higher cover prices for the exact same labor cost. I think spinner racks and newsstands sales should be thought of as missionaries out there spreading the good news of comics and hopefully making converts. I think you're onto something. Walmart, Target, Barnes & Noble, all good places for this. Maybe placed by the toy department or near the checkouts. Given this fits with something else you discussed, the price of comics being too high, they need to be impulse buy price. The thing about, everyone says comics need to be cheaper, and I agree. It'd be great if they were. It'd be good. Look, it'd be great if I could walk in with $10 and walk out with 10 comics, right? Like back in the day. The problem is that, the production of these comics aren't the same as they were back then. Like on a small scale, right? We're paying through the nose. Even on a large scale, if you're Marvel and DC, I'm sure their production costs have gone up as well. Walmart did experiment with trying to sell comics in their stores. DC revived the old giant size format from the 70s, while Marvel produced sealed packs with either exclusive variants or repackaged older 6 to 18-month-old comics. Neither were overly successful. Target has been selling select manga titles with some success. Most people were barely aware the program existed. Marvel's intent was to use their then new Star Wars High Republic series to entice people to buy 3 comic packs, which were sold at $10.99 each. Again, seems to be a little expensive. There's the Tyler hot take. Spinner racks are anathema. I'm not even sure what that is. To the collector market, who's the main customer when 20 pages of story costs $5. If it ain't cheap newsprint, it ain't a real comic. Well, that's old-fashioned thinking for sure. I 100% agree. My pal started a small distribution business and is putting his own version of the spinner rack into comic shops and other retailers. Check it out, comicsmainstream.com. My LCS still has spinner racks in the store along with all the other displays they have. Yeah, but we're talking about spinner racks outside of comic book shops, like in a Barnes & Noble or a 7-Eleven or something to that effect. Johnny Reed. Of course, we know Johnny Reed. I have one in my shop with our Atrocity Press comics in them. I love the old shop feel. Ted here. I want to get one of those stands to display my collection of 1960s comics. They cost like $50. They're more than that. They're like, spinner racks are like $400. It'd be nice if they could reprint comics from the last century for $1 each and only sell them at 7-Eleven like back in the 60s. I'm not reading that fucking book. Sorry. I believe what's actually end up the use of spinner racks is the collector mentality. The perception is no one wants to buy comics that are damaged because of the spinner racks. But that's what made comic books valuable. Like if you look at the old newsstand comic books, they're worth more than a direct market because of that reason. If a comic book was to survive the spinner rack and still be in great shape, that makes it more valuable than a comic book sitting on the shelf at the LCS. I think part of the problem is the cost. $4 for a comic is hellacious, especially when you can wait for the trade, which has 4 to 6 issues, and they'll sell for 10 to 15 bucks. It's no comparison. Yeah, but only those trades will never be worth the dime, beyond cover price. They'll take longer to get. And I know everyone says that they wait for the trades, but do they really? Do they really? That is, from Ben Dunn right there. So my thing is, I think the logistics that Ben mentions is the biggest holdback here, and the fact that you can't send back, things that do not sell. You're sort of stuck with these things forever. You can fix those two issues, then I think it'd be great. I think if Marvel or DC just had their own spinner rack, not going through like a third party, like they, have direct deals with stores and said, hey, we're Marvel, we want to put a spinner rack in your store. I think that might go further than, trying like the assortment sort of stuff, like, brand name spinner racks with your comics, all your entry buy-ins for the younger generation. Maybe do put them, at a little bit of a loss, like $1 or $2 cheaper. Make them, issues that you're only going to get off of the spinner racks at these stores, as opposed to finding them at comic book shops. Make them almost like a different product, if you will. But that's my 2 cents. I want to hear what your 2 cents is down in the comment section below. The spinner rack debate rages on. Who's right? Who's wrong? Should we put Ben Dunn and Tyler into a Street Beast-like competition? Should we let them hash it out? I want to know. It's young versus old. Digital versus traditional. Goliath versus David. However you want to phrase it. So, with that being said, check out my comic, Nyobi Penguina, #1, done along with Ben Dunn's blessing. And stay tuned for a word from our sponsor. If you guessed it, and you said, I bet you any money LP is the sponsor of his own video, you would be 100% correct. I am. We are currently crowdfunding Nyobi Penguina #1, the crossover campaign. With 20 days left to go, we're at 178 backers. We have raised 7,356 Canadian dollars, which is about $1.52 US. Maybe enough to get me a cup of coffee. Help me get lunch at McDonald's by, pledging to this campaign. Pick one out of 6 great covers we got to choose from. It is a 30-page book where Nyobi teams up with her good friend Penguina to go on an epic classic superhero adventure. It's a book you don't want to miss.